Everyone is feeling the rising cost of doing business. I'm feeling it in my business, and I'm sure you're feeling it in yours, and that is affecting our ability as project managers to get the job done. So the question I want to look at is, how do you respond to the pressure to reduce your project budget? Exchange rates are volatile, which means imported goods are becoming more expensive, and there's a pressure to discount exported goods. Too many companies are finding themselves under huge budgetary pressure, and that is driving budget pressures on all projects too. Fuel prices are increasing too, and for companies not in the US who are reliant on US-built software and technology, their prices are rising too as the dollar strengthens. All this is putting huge pressure on project budgets. Resources will diminish and scrutiny will strengthen, and the penalties for cost overruns will rise. And with it will come blame and recrimination. So what does this mean for you as a project manager? Well, as soon as I hear the word cost, 3 other words come to my mind: time, quality, and scope. And as a project manager, if you need to reduce your cost, then it pays to understand the 3 levers that you have of quality, time, and scope. To reduce the budget, one solution is sometimes to reduce time pressure. Now, it's not always true that if you take longer to do a project, it will reduce the cost, but the opposite is true. If you want to speed up a project and deliver it more quickly, then you are going to have to incur greater levels of cost. So it is sometimes the case that by adjusting your schedule, you can reduce costs. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is to reduce the quality specification. This will always work, of course, if you work to a lower quality and you are prepared to accept a reduced product, then that will reduce the cost. But in return, you will of course have to deal with the possibility of reputational costs. But this is where value engineering comes in. Value engineering is all about reworking the product or service proposition so that it gives a higher value, a better balance of cost and benefit from the product. And sometimes by relooking at the way you do things, you can reduce the cost. Now, it's very rarely the case that you can reduce the cost and maintain all of the quality, but sometimes a small reduction in quality can have a disproportionately large reduction in cost. So, reducing quality is option number 2. If you can't deliver any later nor work to lower standards, then option number 3 is to reduce the scope of your ambition, to aim to do less, to look at the full scope of your project and ask yourself, what elements of that scope deliver the least benefit? If I were to trim some elements of scope from my project and do less, could I deliver a disproportionate amount of benefit and save myself a substantial amount of cost? And often that's the case because scope tends to work on the Pareto principle. You get 80% of benefit from 20% of the scope, which means that if you were to trim some of the scope, you may not find a substantial reduction in benefit. And you could continue to deliver that at the same quality standard that you originally planned to do. To do this will certainly require some difficult conversations. You're going to have to meet again with your stakeholders and push some of their musts down to shoulds and some of their shoulds down to coulds in your Moscow analysis. But if you work hard and you negotiate hard with your stakeholders, it's often possible to find things that you can either not deliver on your project or promise for a subsequent phase of the project, which might receive a new budget allocation, perhaps when money gets somewhat less tight. So, when your client or your boss or your project sponsor says, we need to save money, we need to reduce the budget, you don't need to make a belligerent no, can't do that response, because for a project manager, saying no is anathema. It's not what we like to do. We like to say yes. And you can say yes if you say yes if. Yes, if we're prepared to reduce the standards to which we work. Yes, if we're prepared to deliver a little more slowly and a little later. Yes, if we're prepared to deliver a little less to reduce our scope. And remember, there's always the option to trade contingency from your budget for an additional acceptance of risk. This should never be your default, because taking on more risk for your project needs sign-off at a senior level. But as a project manager, you need to avoid the words "we can't" and to replace them with the words "oh yes, we can if." Please give us a thumbs up if you like this video, because there'll be loads more great project management videos to come. So why not subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.